Hi, everybody. Welcome to All Things Metaphysical Podcast. Today is May 17th, 2023. In case someone is watching this at a later date, I'm the Gail portion of Gail and Kelly.
That
That makes you
would
the
make
Kelly
me the
portion.
Kelly portion, yes.
Or one day we could just play around with that and see if anyone notices if we say it differently. Um, so we were thinking about what to talk about today, and there seems to be a lot going on. Didn't Mercury just came out of retrograde? We just had that lunar eclipse.
Yep.
And so the energy, although for me the last couple days, ever since like Saturday, have been going really well. So I don't know about for other people, um, but I feel like I'm awake again. I also stopped watching the news, so that helped.
That helps. That helps a lot. Yep.
So, if you're watching us live, please feel free to ask questions in the comment section and we will address them. One of the things that Kelly and I were talking about before we started was multidimensionality and what that means and how that's representing itself right now in our world or our reality, however you want to think about it. So, what are your thoughts about multidimensionality?
I think more people are waking up to that. More people are having experiences. I've had several discussions in the last couple of days with a family who I know very well,
Mhm.
who had a family member kill themselves last week. And what they were describing to me is they went into a group meditation with a clergy person, I guess is for lack of a better term. And they found themselves floating up through a bluish mist, and they could see their bodies and the circle below them. And they found this family member,
Mhm.
and we're having a discussion. And the woman was telling me about it later, and she said it was surreal, and the colors were amazing, and we weren't sure where we were, and we didn't care. It was very peaceful, and it was all loving. And I'm thinking, yeah, I know exactly where you were. So it's happening to people who never really thought they would ever experience such a thing. And I think it's just because humanity is sort of being upgraded and more people are having those experiences. But it was very comforting for them, very healing for them. And under that circumstance, I hope they continue visiting him. It just, it seemed from talking with her, that it was very, very comforting.
Mhm.
So that's just one example. But people are having strange dreams where they are leaving their bodies and, not caring. That seems to be the common thread lately, is that people are having these experiences and, oh, yeah, that's my body. I don't care. It's fine. It's fine.
As opposed to me, who's having all these experiences with smell.
Hmm.
That was never one of my really strong senses, but
Right.
I got so was it last week? One solid day, all I smelled was black licorice. And I had no idea why I was smelling black licorice all day, but it was all day long. So it's really interesting to start to pay attention to those things. And I don't know about anybody else, but I'm seeing angel numbers
Uh-huh.
multiple times a day.
Right.
Like, and I have no idea like what's going on in the world. And I'll look at my clock and I'm like, there's another one. There's another one. So I've started taking screenshots because I'm trying to see how often it's really happening.
Yeah. It's happening a lot lately. Yeah. To
Usually in
men.
a given day, I'll see it 3 times, which seems a little high for me. But yeah.
I know last night I was up at 12:12 and 1:11 and 2:22 and 3:33. And at 4:44, I said, forget it. I'm just going to get up because it was just, and then it's like, what? What do you want? But
And I think too, with the increase in being able to connect and see things and have different experiences, it's really honoring your own intuition too. Because
yeah,
I'll go through periods for myself where I won't listen to the messages. And I have to say, since I think it was Friday or Saturday, I've started paying more attention and things have really started to shift.
yeah. I think I've been paying too much attention.
Mhm.
And it's when you get to a point where every single thing that you look at is a sign,
Mhm.
it's time to back up a bit, I think, because if there's a message that's that urgent, they're just messing with me at this point, and I know it. They're just
Well,
like, oh,
yeah,
you're not listening.
I think it's about balance, right? You can't, we're still in human form, so
Right.
you can't stay with spirit all the time. You have to still have a human experience. So it's about how do you balance the two? And for me, that's always been a difficult thing. I am getting better at it as I get older, but it was really hard in the beginning because I just didn't sleep. Like,
Yeah.
because if I was working all day and then they were talking to me, I'd be up and then I was drawing pictures till like 4 in the morning, and then I'd start work again at like 8. It's like
Yeah.
it was bananas.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, it is. It gets a little overwhelming. I think because the energies have been so all over the place lately, it's getting overwhelming for a lot of people.
do you
There,
think, and I don't know why I'm bringing this up, but they also just downgraded COVID.
hmm
It's no longer a pandemic. And I wonder if there isn't this sense of everyone's able to breathe again because, like, this terror that's been going on the last 2 years is kind of, I don't know, but they're going into great detail about this in my head right now. So
hmm,
I wonder if that's not a part of it because I never thought about it when I heard about the downgrade,
right.
but that was like just last week or something. So that explains, the timing is really interesting when you really start to think about it. We're
Yeah,
talking about multidimensionality and expanding just as they downgraded COVID. It's just interesting.
it's interesting. I'm not sure how much one has to do with the other, but there are certainly some people seem to be in specific areas of the country
Mhm.
that have paid a lot more attention to that than where I live. We've been like, that's still going on? Really? Because there are no people here. So
Mhm.
it hasn't been a big deal. But I can see where that might make a difference to more densely populated areas. We've got one person for every, 100 acres. So, yeah.
It's just kind of an interesting concept. Again, if you're watching us live, thank you all for joining us live. Please like and subscribe to our channel, share it with other people. And if you have comments or questions, put it in the comment section and we will talk about it in real time. So we appreciate everyone who watches and who sends us messages, who asks us questions, or gives us things to talk about. Um, so it's always fun. It's always interesting to see where spirit is going to take us during this podcast.
Yeah.
Because usually we have no idea. We're just along for the ride. Like, we'll come up with a theme, but usually that lasts about 5 minutes, and then we're off to the races talking about something that I had no idea we were going to talk about. Okay, so speaking of that, and I don't
Okay.
know why that this is coming in again, because I haven't thought about it in years, but the pyramids in Egypt are going to make a big comeback really soon. And the energy that's in them, I believe, is finally going to be unlocked, or people are finally going to know what they were really built for. So,
People have been trying to bring that to the forefront for years now that I'm aware of.
mhm,
There are always
mhm.
people studying the pyramids and what they were initially built for. But recently there has been some testing done that shows there is a different type of energy that is coming through and is around the pyramid. So it will certainly be interesting.
When and I don't know that I've ever told this story on this podcast, but When I was taking my opening to intuition course and my third eye reopened, like clearly remembering it reopen, like I saw it blink open and stuff. And then I got this whole history of the world in like 5 minutes. And one of the things they showed me was how the pyramids were built and what they were really for,
Yep.
where the capstones are, and the whole complex and what it was about. And I'm just like, it's just so interesting. So that was 23 years ago. So it's really interesting that it's starting to come up again.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, it seems to be every couple decades the pyramids come back into play. I think this time, though, humanity is readier than they've been in the past.
Someone just asked, have you looked at the Tesla pyramid theories? Very interesting.
Yeah, they are very, very interesting. Tesla himself had a lot of really interesting theories that have now been proven to be accurate. So that's kind of cool too.
Yeah, it's just, what is it? Everything that's old becomes new again. And
Yeah, he was way ahead of his time. Yeah,
or what was he connected to while he was living in the time he was living in is
yeah,
the question I have. Who
yeah.
was he getting? Where was he getting all of his information from?
Thought experiments, just like Einstein.
Mhm.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Tapping into the universe and the cosmic grid.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. He did actually a lot of things that he was studying at the time of his death were never really publicized, but I've seen a couple of documentaries lately
Mhm.
that he was really working on a lot of interesting things. And some of his theories have become, you know, accepted in string theory and quantum mechanics. So it was just really ahead of his time, way ahead.
Really, because what the wave of the future is sound, vibration, and frequency.
Yeah,
And that's really what the universe vibrates on.
right.
So,
Yeah, everything is energy, everything is a frequency. Um, he had some interesting theories about time.
mhm.
Yeah, well, time is a human construct anyway. We made that up. But everything that has ever been is still. It's not past, present, future. It's all existing simultaneously, and is what they've kind of proven. If you look into some of the quantum theories that are floating around the internet right now.
And that all your past lives are also happening
Yeah, at the
simultaneously.
same time. Yeah,
So, I can prove that because the only place I went out of the well, I was on a cruise with my parents, but that doesn't count. I went to Ireland, and the only place that I wanted to go, now I can't think of the name of it, but this famous burial ground.
mid range.
Yes.
Yeah,
And that was the only place I wanted to go. I didn't listen to the guy giving the speech. I was first in line. I was ready to go in, so excited. I couldn't contain myself. I walked a foot into it. I This invisible wall came up and I got so nauseous that I had to leave because I was going to pass out and I wasn't allowed to enter. And I was so sad. And then later on, they're like, that's because one of your lifetimes you're buried there. You can't
right.
re-enter.
Yeah, you can't walk in on yourself.
So, I mean, but I was so excited. That was like the only thing I wanted to do on the whole trip. And it was the one thing I wasn't allowed to do. It's really interesting, but I am sure that some of our other viewers or people who will be watching this later have had those experiences. You get really excited to do something, and then all of a sudden you can't do it for whatever reason, or
Right.
something comes up that you can't do it. That's forces protecting us from being in situations that we're not supposed to be in.
Right. Right. It's the same thing with, there are many duplicates of us floating around and alternate universes and alternate storylines and all of that. That what is happening lately, I'm hearing from a couple of different people that don't know each other. So it's kind of weird. They have the same story, but they're two different countries and whoa. But they're having experiences where it's like a time slip,
Mm.
and all of a sudden you're not here. You find yourself in a different version of yourself, and it's kind of freaking people out, at least those two people. And it was the same story from both of them. They both woke up in the middle of the night, got up, walked outside. It was not their house, it was not their yard. It was something entirely different. And they had different people calling them mom. And one of these people was in Australia and the other one is in England. And they had the same experience on the same night, which I thought was really weird. I don't know what happened. I think I just lost power. There it is.
There it is.
We've got storms rolling through. So
Interesting. So, and stuff like that happens whenever we're doing podcasts. It's like, should we keep talking about this topic? Or is that a sign that we're not supposed to keep talking about this topic? Maybe it's that the light went off and then back on again because we need to shed light on it.
And it could be. It's really interesting what people are experiencing lately. It's sort of, and I've been saying for years, people are waking up, they're waking up, they're waking up. Well, now that they really are, it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, so one of our viewers wrote, Dover Castle was one of those, for me, loved it, but felt so ill, thick head the more I explored.
Yeah.
And those, I think the difference is, I think people have always had experiences like this.
Yep.
I think no one has felt free enough to ever share them or talk about them. I think that it scares a lot of people when you have these experiences, so they bury it.
Yeah.
It's like, no, that didn't really happen. That was a dream. Or, God, I have a really powerful imagination. I just made that whole thing up,
Yeah.
because some of the stuff that happens is really weird.
The thing too, I've been doing a lot of children's events again with the children's book series. And
Lately Project.
Yes, the Laley Project. And you hear kids talking, and occasionally the parent will buy a book and I'll sign the book for the kid. And one of the parents came up to me last Thursday and she said, you're a psychic, right? And I said, okay, we'll go with that. Why? And she said, I need you to talk to my son. Okay. And he found his own grave. They were walking through a neighborhood that they'd never walked before, and there was a little cemetery. And he started running towards the cemetery, and she kept trying to get him to stop. And he says, no, I'm here. And he walked right up to this one particular tombstone and said, this is me. And she said, they researched it. And the person who was buried there lived the exact life that this kid has been telling her that he had before. And he knew exactly the way this person died. And she says, I don't know what to do with that. How do I handle this child? How can I communicate with this person? And I think, I told her, just keep your heart open. This is your son. It doesn't matter who he was before in this life. Right now, he's your son, and you need to help him. Imagine how he feels, going through this. And so many kids, like 10 and under, are wide awake. Mm-hmm. And they remember and they know things, and they never went through the indoctrination process that many of us went through. And I just find that fascinating.
Even little kids, like up to 2, like they can see all the stuff that's around you, because if you ever look at them, they're not looking at you, they're looking above you and around you, because they see all the flashing lights and all the other stuff that's going on in our energy fields.
Yeah. It's happening. It's like my whole life I've been going, now? No? Okay, we'll wait. Now? How about now? And finally, it really is. Yeah.
Yeah. I know that I remember hearing a story when I was younger that my uncle had gotten a book on. He was always been fascinated by history, and he had this book on German U-boats or submarines, and he opened the book and he's like, "That was me."
Yeah.
And of course, freaked my grandparents out to no end. But yeah, and like could tell details at the time about the same type of thing. So it's why do we have to shut all of those things off in order to survive in our society?
Because there
And
was a better place.
I don't think people are as much like this younger generation, I think is still very aware and still very connected. Yes. Yes, sorry, we were reading one of the comments, so we stopped talking. Somebody said that there's a little girl on TikTok who described her past life and the transition to this lifetime. And if anyone's more really interested in wanting to read that, I think Brian Weiss, who is a psychiatrist, does a really good job. His book's called Many Lives and Many Masters,
Yeah.
because he regressed people and he saw how people come back and stuff like that. And when you cleared the phobia from one lifetime, when they came back in this lifetime, when they woke up from that, it was no longer there. So
Right.
that's a really cool book just to get a kind of overview of
Right.
it. And Dolores Cannon's books are really cool too.
Mhm.
That talks about that. She did a lot of past life regressions and things like that. Have you ever had a past life? I have had many past
Yeah.
life
Yeah.
regressions, but I'll never forget the first lady I went to because you know how I get information very fast. It's not like I try to, it just comes in fast. So she's regressing me, and we're at a lifetime. I'm like, I'm done. So I go to the next one. She's like, no, we're not there yet. I'm like, well, I am.
Yeah.
Why don't you catch up? I'm like, there's nothing else to see in this lifetime. We're done. Let's move to the next one.
A friend of mine is a hypnotherapist, and she has. We had a long conversation the other night over what she is starting to see in her practice, and she's starting to see. She opens a door and people just go.
Mhm.
And when she did a past life regression the other day, she said, I said, I counted down, and we're at what year are we at? And they went, okay, I'm 1632. Nope, 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 14. No, 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 no. And it was just boom, 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 boom. And it was kind of the same thing you were just talking about. And she said that never used to happen before. It's like there's a whole group of people who just need someone, just get me in the neighborhood. I'll find my information and then we can move on. Uh,
Well,
so that's interesting too.
I think we started talking about multidimensionality, but the other piece of that puzzle is that the veil is very thin between this side and the other side now. So accessing the information for everybody is much easier. Like you used to have
Right.
to go to people to do this. But since the veil is so thin and humanity's vibration has risen above, it's easier to connect now.
Yeah. 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 And someone's talking about grounding being very important. That is crucial
Mhm.
these days. It used to be you could kind of maybe float around for a little bit. You have to stay grounded. Even if you have a 1,000,000-mile long bungee cord attached to you, you do have to stay grounded. It's really important these days.
Mhm. So, anyone else have any questions who's watching us live? We are happy to answer them. So,
Yeah, she's talking about rubber-soled shoes. That is a big point of contention with a lot of people thinking about grounding. Some people say it doesn't matter. Some people say it will prevent you from actually connecting to the Mother Earth. Um, that's something to play around on your own. You can feel when you're grounded. You can, even if you're telling me you can't, you can. Um, Try it with wearing shoes and without, because
that
I,
must be why I wear rubber sole shoes so I don't have to feel everything that's always going on in the earth.
right, and that's one school of thought as well, as it's kind of a shield.
Mhm.
But I generally walk around barefoot anyway, unless I'm outside, and this area is just not conducive to that. But yeah, pay attention to how you feel.
Mhm.
That's what resonates with you is always the right thing for you to do. Always.
And even people talk about what is it? You put the crystal in your right hand to receive, and you put the other crystal or whatever in your left
I think
hand.
it's backwards, but yeah,
Okay, so that's my point is that it's not the same for everybody
right.
because I tend to work in reverse from how the rest of humanity works. So if someone tells me to do it one way, I usually flip it and then it feels right. So just because someone's telling you to do it one way, if that way doesn't feel right for you, do it how it feels right for you.
Right.
Because I
Always.
think that that's really important too. It's not going to be the same for everybody. So, really important. So, I haven't watched any good like science fiction movies or anything to talk about lately. Oh, I did watch Avatar: The Way of Water.
Oh, did you?
We talked about that, I think, a couple shows ago,
I have
where
not
it's
seen it
like
yet.
she was chanting with Mala. Yeah.
Mm.
So it's just, and one of the things I remember hearing someone years and years ago that says when you start seeing things in movies, it's happened, they're trying to prepare humanity for it. So when you think about all like the science fiction movies and how people love those and things like that, they're trying to prepare us for what's really coming. So start start to pay attention to the kinds of movies you're watching, the kinds of TV shows you're watching, because it's informing what direction you're going.
Very much so. Yeah. Yeah. I still like the old ones that were in black and white and had horrific, effects and
Like
costume
Forbidden
was,
Planet and stuff
yeah,
like that.
was like laughable.
Lost in Space, the original with Robbie the Robot. Danger, Will Robinson, danger, danger.
Well, you mentioned robots, and that's a whole other thing right now, is the whole AI situation. I was part of a meeting the other night, and it's just people are horrified at what we're doing. And it's people who are the brainiacs, they're the physicists, they're the science minds. These people are concerned. Now, when they get concerned, I have to do some investigating. And there is one school of thought that, going down the AI and creating some of the fake worlds and stuff that Hollywood is doing is really, really detrimental to humanity as a species. Um, I tend to agree with that. I think we can go too far.
Mhm.
And I hope that people kind of wake up to what's going on because it seems like we're going down a really, really dark journey with some of the AI stuff. And people need to flip some lights on. Hmm?
I don't mean to misspeak, but isn't that kind of how Atlantis came to the end? You know, have we learned our lesson or are we going to blow up another civilization?
Right.
You know, I,
Well, and in many, many cultures, we've done this so many times. They talk about the previous culture and what happened, and they blew themselves up, and then the next culture and what happened, and they did the same thing. Are we doing the same thing? There are an awful lot of really, really, really smart people who are saying, "Yeah, whoa, hold up here." It'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
yeah, it's always interesting.
Yeah, it's like, let
Always.
me off first. Thank you.
What?
Let me off the planet first. Thank you. Then you can do whatever.
There's a play, I think, Stop the World, I Want to Get Off.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yes, we cannot help ourselves from recreating humanity.
Uh, and
Sorry,
that's
we're
the
reading.
other thing. There are 5 or 6 asteroids very close to the planet right now. Scientists know about it. They've been documented on telescopes.
Mhm.
Um, people aren't talking about it because people haven't been told. And that's one of the comments here is there's a film called Don't Look Up. Um, yeah, but even Oumuamua, that's a whole show in itself. They went by years ago now. I, they didn't see it and didn't recognize it until it was like right there. And then all of a sudden they were like, oh, hey, we should be paying more attention to what's in the sky.
What wasn't that the movie, the plot of Armageddon?
Uh-huh.
That
Yeah, and they're still missing them. This time they found them, and the news is like, we don't care. So, there's a lot going on that the regular person does not have any idea about.
and I have a friend who's a transport medium. And
Hmm.
I haven't heard much about the news, but there was a cult, I think, in Africa where a lot of people died in that cult.
Yeah,
So, I mean, but you haven't heard much about that. It's
right.
just, you know,
Well, they're keeping people deliberately stupid and uninformed, and that's not a shock. We've known that for eons,
mhm,
but it's coming to a point where I think people are going to have to say, we really need to know. We demand to know this, and slowly but surely it is getting out there. But a lot of the groups that are talking about it are very secret,
mhm.
and even they know that I do this show with you, and they're like, okay, well, don't talk about this. You can't talk about this. Don't even mention that. And that's from people who are supposedly trying to get the truth out. So, there's a fine line between people knowing everything and maybe they don't need to know everything. Sometimes knowledge is very dangerous in the wrong hands. And that's the consensus with these groups is we can tell them everything up to a point.
Well, I think, if we look at that, the three-dimensional Earth is duality, right? And the five-dimensional Earth is multi-dimensional Earth, which is where we're moving to. I think you have to look at the level of control that the beings who are in power of three-dimensional Earth are trying to keep so that humanity doesn't jump and make the shift.
Right.
No idea why I just said that, but seems really important.
I think there are many people who feel
Mhm,
intuitively what's going on.
mhm,
And I always try to tell people if you're having these visions, someone the other day was describing to me this okay, how do I say it without saying it? This thing that we put into space that is just, floating around, checking the universe out. And they're telling me what I know to be accurate.
mhm.
And I'm going, okay, you need to pay attention to your visions. You need to pay attention to your intuition. And I think part of humanity waking up is we are all having that kind of thing happening.
It reminds me of this. I don't know, I'm quoting a lot of movies today, but it reminds me of the scene in Close Encounters, right? Where they all build the same shape thing because they're all
Uh-huh.
getting these messages and they all, for whatever reason, travel there.
Yep.
I mean, that's what's happening now. That's what it means to be awake, is to follow
Right.
what you're being guided to do. And yes, people are going to think you're crazy. People are going to think you're bananas. So I ended up. This is a funny story. I ended up getting a new Jeep this weekend. It was not on my agenda to do at all. I had just taken an extended warranty out on my other Jeep, but lots of things happened, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to follow the intuition. So I'm sitting there and I'm sitting there. I'd already purchased it and then I'm just waiting. So the salesman went to do something. So I'm like, yeah, it's time to go. So I walk out and he's like, how did you know I was just coming to get you? I'm like, I told you I'm a tad bit intuitive at the beginning of this whole
Just
thing.
a little.
So he was just like, literally, I was just opening the door to come get you. I'm like, well, here I am. Now you don't have to walk that far. So he was just like, that's weird.
But it's not. It's
But it's
normal.
not. But it was funny because the look on his face was really funny. So,
Yeah.
and
It's
the deal went to my in my favor, like I said, because
yeah.
I had no idea, no thought of getting a new vehicle. It just kind of fell into my lap. So it was just like, okay. And that's what I mean. Sometimes you have to trust things. It seemed absolutely bananas to me to do that, but I went anyway.
Yeah.
So, and it worked out in my really well in my favor to do that. Somebody was looking out for me. And then my friends think this is funny, so I'll share it with everyone here. I don't normally name vehicles, but this one wants a name. So I had to name it
Yay.
because it kept saying, I want a name. And you want to talk about bananas? I'm just going to put it all out there tonight, apparently. Um, I had a Pontiac Aztec years and years ago. It was one of my favorite cars. But with that car came three travelers that were always in the back seat with me wherever I went. It was two guys and a girl, and they always sat in the same position. They were always in the car when I went to get in the car, and everywhere I went, they went. And I mean, it sounds absolutely bananas. And they're like, they just liked traveling with me because I would have fun when I was driving the car, and they just thought it was a fun adventure. But as soon as I got rid of that car, they left. They didn't like the next car. But I mean, we
Like it.
what?
They didn't like the next one.
No, they didn't at all. And they told me. They said, "We will no longer be with you." I found it comforting after a while. At first, it was really weird, but after a while, it was comforting because they were always there. And I still don't know who they really were, other than they were just, it was just fun for them. So, we all have weird experiences. So, can't believe I just shared that one, but whatever.
All right.
So, all right. Any last things that you guys want us to talk about tonight or cover tonight? Because we started a few minutes early, so we're kind of right at that time mark that we've been trying to keep the shows at. So, okay. I guess this is a good stopping point. Now that I've shared all these weird stories of, and wasn't that was a section in my first book, right? Weird things that happened to me.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I've had lots of them. If you want to read more about them, I don't normally promote myself, but they're in the book. I don't know how I know, I just know. But yeah, there's a whole section on all the weirds, and it's in book two too. I still know what I know, but and book three will be I wish I could forget what I know, but I haven't written it
Yeah.
yet. That'll be book three. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We will see you all again in 2 weeks. Have a
Yeah.
great night. Anything comes up between now and then, you know how to find us. And please like and share our show with other people. And we appreciate all of you very much. Have a good night, everybody.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Bye.